Welcome back. This Wednesday will mark the 100-day point of Governor Pritzker's new administration. And we return now to our Reporters Roundtable. Dave and Bernie are with us again to sort of survey where we are in the new Pritzker administration and what he has accomplished so far. Bernie, in the last segment, you mentioned that he's already spent some political capital, but he's still spending it like it's he's not going to run out of it anytime soon. And I don't know how closely that aligns with the fact that he's got rather deep pockets and can make campaign contributions too. Just as a side note, but what would you say about where his agenda is heading? It does seem like a pretty clear departure from the last one.
Well, it clearly is that. I mean, one of the events that he recently had was he was in his office surrounded by legislators and labor people, and he signed a bill. I don't think it had a lot of necessary meaning because I'm not sure it's legal for under court rulings right now for cities in Illinois to declare themselves right-to-work zones. But when Governor Rauner 4 years ago was a new governor, he went around to 63 cities and counties and asked them to declare themselves right-to-work zones. And Lincolnshire was one city up north that did, and that's stuck in court right now.
The one city.
Was that the one city? And I thought there might have been a couple more. But anyway, this governor is pro-labor union. We still don't have a settlement of the contract of the largest state employee union workers, AFSCME, American Federation of State County Municipal Employees. I think it represents like 38,000 state workers. They have been running on a contract extension and then an impasse from the middle of 2015 when Governor Rauner was in his first year. So Governor Pritzker clearly is a union guy. He talks about being for working people. He's also certainly has tried to have good relations with legislators of both sides. I believe it was the day before his budget address / State of the State, he met with not only the Democratic leaders of the legislature, but the Republican leaders. They said they disagree with much of what he said, but they appreciated the outreach. So there is at least more conversation than when Governor Rauner, for example, didn't meet with Speaker Madigan, the Democratic leader of the Illinois House, for more than a year at one point. So there's been movement, but the budget itself is going to be a big haul, and the governor really wants to get both houses of the legislature in that last few weeks we've got to pass a constitutional amendment to get it on the ballot in 2020 for a graduated income tax where the rich pay more. He calls it a fair tax. The opponents call it a jobs tax. The Republicans are basically united against it. But it's a big deal because future budgets in this administration are based on that. And
he's campaigning on that issue still.
He's funneled some money to an outside group called Think Big Illinois. They're running ads on TV and on the internet. But then a group's opposed to this. I think it's Ideas Illinois, run by Greg Bays, former head of the Illinois Manufacturers Association. They say this will be terrible. It will, despite the promises of the Democrats, middle-class people will pay more. Pritzker says that's not true. We'll see what happens, but that's an ongoing debate, and that's a linchpin to a lot of other things that might happen.
Dave, highlights from the first 100 days?
Well, let me build on something Bernie said. That bill signing, which was about a week and a half ago for the non-right-to-work bill, that was nothing more than a thumb in the eye of Bruce Rauner. Nothing more, nothing less. And really, the one big bill, what I would consider a big bill that's been passed, would be the minimum wage bill. That was passed awfully quickly. Ran through both houses, and the governor signed it and spiked the ball in the end zone to show, in my view, when I want to get something done, I'm going to do it. And he did it with an all-Democratic cast, leaving the Republicans to say, not only are there fewer of us than ever in a super minority, but we didn't support the minimum wage, yet it passed. So I think that was just a show for Governor Pritzker to say, you know what I'm capable of now. So we'll see if he's able to use that tactic when it comes to any element of the budget, graduated tax, etc.
And that came roughly 30 days after his inauguration address, in which he talked a lot about being bipartisan, reaching out to both parties. And Republicans have sort of barked about that a while, saying, you said you were going to be bipartisan, you're not including us in these big substantive things that have real impact to the economy of the state. Have you seen any signs since then that it's tilting more toward a bipartisan discussion, or is it still pretty locked in?
I would say that, and I think both you and I, all three of us, have probably mentioned it to the governor. You say you're bipartisan, yet look at this minimum wage thing. And he'll talk around it like, well, I got input from Republicans or whatever, but you didn't get votes from Republicans. When he puts a big bill on the board and it gets votes from both sides of the aisle, it'll look bipartisan to me.
One of the other things he did, which was another holdover from the Rauner administration, Governor Rauner, I think it was either a full veto or they just withheld the bill from him from the Democratic legislature, but to oversee certification of the licensing of gun shops, some state oversight of gun shops beyond what the federal people do.
Yeah, the Gun Dealer Licensing Act.
Dealer, yeah, and this governor signed that bill early in his administration. That's something that the hunter and the guy who lived in Winnetka in the Chicago suburbs but hunts a lot and rode his motorcycle a lot and would talk to the Southern Illinois radio stations during the campaign calling Pritzker a gun grabber. Pritzker basically said he believes in what he would call common sense gun control. A lot of downstate areas are opposed to that. There's been a lot of action. Some downstate county boards are saying, we won't even follow the gun laws of the state. We'll have a gun sanctuary, and I know that's getting some more publicity. I guess it's more than 60 counties are talking that way, but they have a lot less population than the Chicago area. And Governor Pritzker, again, he believes in a certain level of gun control. He is pushing it forward. One other thing, though, that he hasn't really done, that he's talked about making Illinois very liberal as an abortion state and doing some change in the law to make sure that what he considers that right will stay in place. I'm not sure how good that's going to do because there's a lot of pushback to that from various parts of the state. And we'll see if that emerges from some of the subcommittees those bills have gone into.
Are there any two bigger issues that divide or that illustrate the regional divide in the state between the northern part and the southern part of the state more than gun laws and abortion laws?
I would say gun laws are the only one that fit that. I think there's a difference of opinion on abortion probably in all 102 counties.
And it's easier for, well, I don't know, because downstate areas tend to be more red Republican, there's more of an aversion to taxation and talk about it. And there's even been a talk by this small group of downstate legislators about making Chicago its own state, which is a good show for local folks. It's not going to happen. It would take a federal, constitutional amendment. But then you
even
have
some of the people who support it say it's a bad idea and it'll never get done.
Right.
They support it.
C.D.
I'm putting that in air quotes.
C.D. Davidsmeyer from Jacksonville joined into that effort and said he knows it's not happening, but we want to show the cultural difference, and we don't want Chicago dominating us in various things. On the other hand, there is that Paul Simon Public Policy Institute study that showed more money flows from Chicago to downstate than the other way. Downstate gets more from the state.
All right, when we come back, Bernie mentioned it a moment ago, but there was a big public fight. You might have seen it on the airwaves about the future of the state's income tax. Governor Pritzker putting out his plan. Who are the other parties, the conservatives that are fighting back on the airwaves? And soon enough, here in the State House. We're back in just a moment.